to use the carrot in a way to get good behavior out of corporations, so that we'll buy from corporations that do the right thing. We end up really just being distracted from what corporations really do. In other words, we hear about some good thing, which is an attempt really to bury the really awful things that they've done. And in fact, there was a study, and I'm sorry I don't have it with me right now, from 2011 by Ketchen and Moon, where they looked at the last 15 years of corporate behavior, and they charted that there was a tendency that when corporations did really bad things that were publicized, the following year they did kind of this corporate responsibility campaign, so that we would try to affect it. And this is a worldwide trend over 15 years. So that is my fear about what we're doing when we're looking at corporate responsibility. And look, another of my concerns is, you know, I am right now wearing, all my clothes are union made. So I know that the workers who put them together probably had decent wages and some benefits and things like that, and it wasn't made by 11-year-old girls in, you know, China, or not China, but some other country, and that's nice. That's an individual choice, but the problem is most people can't afford the extra cost that goes into buying union-made clothing. And one of the reasons for that is, since the 1970s, well, for instance, US workers have gotten more and more productive, 80% more productive. The wages have been flat. They barely changed since the 1970s. And why is that? It's because corporations, in large part, are not socially responsible, right? So, that's kind of what we're up against. If we want to push toward, buy from the more socially responsible companies, it's a very small part, I think, of the market, and we're not really going to get at the major change I think that we want to get to, a fair country. And, it's really kind of odd today to be talking about corporate social responsibility when we've had the most recent awful, most terrible instances of violations of that by corporations. When you had, British Petroleum kill off, untold numbers of sea life, an entire Gulf area, human beings, and essentially pay some money and get away with it and keep getting government contracts and things like that and keep profiting off what they're doing. We're coming just a few years off of the greatest transfer of wealth from people like you and me to financial corporations, who basically screwed us out of that money in the first place and are not facing any penalties. In fact, they're pouring that back into their CEOs and they're profiting again, and we're not. So, I think the pressure has to be where Professor Tran was talking about, and that is we have to put on that pressure. It has to be the stick with corporations. Okay? As Daniel was saying, they are built for profit at any social expense, basically. And that's why, building democratic institutions, movements, unions, that's the kind of effort I think we need to make to get at them. Now, this isn't just nationwide, or this locally. This is happening and we're not even seeing it. So if you go to Working America, they have an online program called Job Tracker, which will tell you that just in recent years, there are 605 companies within a 50-mile radius of this campus. 605 companies with safety and health code violations. There are 15 companies with labor law violations. There are 13 companies that have had mass layoffs of 70 workers or more. There are 10 companies that have had to undergo wage and hour inspections. Okay. So this is not responsible behavior, but we need to enforce it with better laws And we need to, I think, publicize it and get the movements going to fight them. And then, just because I do work in the hotel industry, I want you to know that, the public face, the socially responsible face of hotels is really not the whole story. So when hotel workers get in the news, it's usually annually, it's for this big Hotel Workers Appreciation Day, that they have. And so there'll be a story in the Herald, it'll be on TV, and there'll be smiling hotel workers who are undergoing these competitions and they win best, fastest bed maker or, best server. And it's fun and I love it, and that's great. I'm glad they do that. But the median wage for housekeepers at these hotels in the Monterey Bay Area is $10 an hour. That's poverty wage, $10 an hour. What's sustainable about that? What's appreciative about that? I mean, that's the story we don't see in the Herald unless the union brings it up. And sometimes we are able to do that by fighting back. And union workers make more than that, of course, several dollars more than that per hour. Even with the hotels will tout their green program. Their green program in their rooms is basically if you don't want to use your towels, or if you don't want clean towels or linens, just tell the housekeeper, and she, sometimes he, will just rehang them up or something like that. We won't waste the water that it takes to. What they don't tell you is, in most of those places where that's happened, they've increased the number of rooms the housekeepers have to do every day. Because the management's argument is, well, you don't have to work as hard because some people aren't. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of this brutal campaign behind the scenes that they never tell you about. Okay. And similarly on National Public Radio just yesterday, I heard the manager of the Monterey Plaza saying that because of water issues, which Daniel also was talking about earlier, to save costs, the Monterey Plaza is outsourcing all their laundry to Paso Robles. How is that environmentally friendly? I'm not exactly sure, all the driving there and back. And then in this radio report, he says, "This used to be my laundry room," said Norigi. Used to be. Since the hotel just started outsourcing its laundry services. Sheets, towels, and linens are now sent 120 miles south to Paso Robles. That will be a huge savings as it relates to water conservation, not to mention a huge savings on the price tag for the hotel, meaning how much it costs them, because there's an empty laundry room, what else is gone?
The person who did the laundry.
Right, the workers. Okay. Not part of the story, not what you see, but that's indeed what else is going on. So you get this attempt at a socially responsible story, but, pardon me, the backdrop, behind the scenes, is not a good story. And I have more, but I did want Erika to get up here, and I don't want to take all her time. I know she has some things to say about Sodexo as well. I also want to say, since the Monterey Bay Aquarium is here, while, even not, this criticism isn't so much for nonprofits, but when nonprofits deal with for-profit companies, you get problems like this. We've heard about it with Sodexo here on campus. Monterey Bay Aquarium, they've hired Aramark, a similar kind of multi-billion-dollar company. And yeah, they're serving sustainable seafood, but what are they paying their workers? I hear they're hiring at $9.50 an hour. For whom is that sustainable? Okay, so we need to focus on fighting back. We need to focus on getting power from below to address that. And I think more of our energy should go into that than in trying to pick the best of the worst companies in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And Erika, you have a short period of time, but that means you also have the last word. So.
So thank you all for coming and for waiting for me to speak. And thank you, Shelby, for sharing your story as a worker for Pete's. I think most of us as student workers, we can all relate. So speaking as a woman of color and as a representative for Students for Quality Education, corporations need to understand that while we may be customers and clients, we're also social, ecological activists who understand and research the complexities of these labor issues abroad, sometimes even researching the labor issues in our countries of origin or our parents' country of origin. As a coalition advocating for affordable, accessible public higher education, we disagree with the simple fact that students should not have to take on 2 or 3 more jobs while pursuing their college degree. I work for the on-campus dining as a food service worker. I've worked there since October of 2010. For those of you who don't know, Sodexo is a French transnational corporation headquartered in Paris. It is the 22nd largest employer in the world and the 3rd largest food service and facilities management companies in the world, behind Aramark and Compass. And for the fiscal year 2010, revenues reached 15.3 billion euros. And I'm here because I just want to state that being a student is hard enough. Finding employment with a reasonable wage is close to impossible. And not because these corporations, obviously they lack resources, but because they simply choose not to aid workers with the basics to make a living wage. We students have no choice but to then take on 1 or 2 jobs and take on more units, take on more student debt, or simply ditch the entire institution. And then what does that say about these corporations valuing these adults, trying to become honorable working citizens in the society? The structure simply places no importance on students pursuing higher education and education in general. Overall, corporations need to recognize that first and foremost, bottom line, students are workers too, and we are valuable resources to any company. With that being said, we deserve the right to be treated fairly and respectfully by the university, by Sodexo, which takes initiative adhering to affirmative action principles. We deserve safe, clean, professional working environments. This includes something as simple as safety shoes and parking permits provided by the company. Otherwise, students see it as paying to go to work. The right to use Campus Job as a reference for future employees, honorable wages, definitely, benefits. And while most companies don't allow part-time employees to have medical, dental, and vision plans, we are human, we get sick too. A handful of students do not have the luxury of getting their parents' health insurance because some of our parents don't even have health insurance. Lastly, we deserve freedom of association. It's true that that most of the momentum from the early 20th century labor movements have died, and as a result, the standard of living all over the world has decreased. Well, that just means that we need more student union fusion in all forms, preferably comprehensive campaigns, but beginning with freedom of association in the workplace. Other than freedom of association, which we cannot gain yet on campus because of the contract with Sodexo, what can students do? It begins with getting involved with coalitions like our own. Anything else that any of these panelists have mentioned, becoming informed of your own entitlements as a student worker and whether or not companies you work for are fulfilling our needs. It all comes down to placing pressure. It gains victories. Other than that, pressure, looking at ourselves as students and recognizing the immense power that we hold and using it to bring about corporate social responsibility. We need to demand it. Otherwise, we will not get these issues fixed for ourselves or individuals abroad, nor get the entitlements that we deserve. So, thank you.
Yeah, I thought she was going to go for another 15 minutes. Thank you very much, Erika, and thanks to all of the panelists. I apologize for not being a strict timekeeper, so there wasn't time for questions. But you know who all of these people are now. You have the program in front of you, and if you want to engage any of them in ongoing conversations, I mean, each of them had, I thought, really important and valuable insights for us. I think you should contact them and continue the discussion. I encourage faculty who are here to invite some of these people to your classes and to continue that discussion in that way as well. Again, thank you all for coming to this 17th Social Justice Colloquium. And Dr. Gutierrez?
That's amazing.
This is 17. And thanks to Dr. Tran for all of the organizing
My
work that
corporate's
she
in arm.
did. Thank you.
You actually need another day for this. This is so rich. And I feel like, oh my goodness, I wish I had more time to engage. Even conversation among ourselves would be fantastic, and then engaging with you.
Adios.
Thank you so much.